Hey world, welcome back to another episode of Be Inspired Podcast where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. So tonight I have another awesome episode for you guys. I wanted to just reflect on Podcast Summit because we was out there, we were meeting different entrepreneurs, content creators, everybody that has made a difference in the podcast industry, like Dave Shands, Donnie Wiggins, a whole bunch of high level people that coached us to get us to where we want to be into the next level in life. So let's talk about it, right? So, five of the biggest lessons I learned, right? But before we jump into it, everyone wants more downloads, right? More subscribers, more views. But after spending time at Podcast Summit, I realized most people are asking the wrong question, right? The question isn't, how do I grow my podcast? The real question is, how do I become someone worth listening to? Growth isn't built on hacks, it's built on clarity, built on consistency, built on creating conversations that people can't stop thinking about. Today, I'm sharing the five biggest lessons that completely changed how I think about podcasting, leadership, and building a brand that actually lasts. If you have a message the world needs to hear, this episode is for you. All right, so let's get into it. So day one was jam packed, and I love that we had like different tier levels. You get to meet different people. You get to the whole setup was just amazing because you could even record your own podcast at the podcast summit. So there were a lot of different booths. There's a lot of different vendors, and it was just an awesome experience just being in a high energy level of high level entrepreneurs for the whole weekend. But one of the first things I learned on day one was just make an offer. If you have a podcast, you've been doing this for a while and you haven't seen like your community grow, one of the biggest things is just making an offer. And that's one of the things that I have not done on here since I've been having a podcast, right? I've just been on here having strong conversations and giving inspiring advice and challenging you to transform your life through these conversations, right? But the only job isn't just to inspire or transform people. It's to lead people to the direction you want them to go. Right. So with that being said, right, many podcasters believe their only job is to inspire people, but inspiration without actions fade quickly. Right. Every episode should answer one question. Now that I listened, what should I do next? An offer doesn't always mean selling a product. It could be like maybe download a free guide. It could be join my email community. Like if you want to build a community, it could just be a little, hey, join my community and get these free tips, or reflecting on a question or sharing the episode with someone who needs it. It could be simple as booking a consultation, discovery call for some coaches. For maybe if you're a health coach, you give health tips and you gave a 3-day guide to uh, losing weight in losing 5 pounds in 3 days or something simple that would get them interested to keep coming back. They're looking for you to guide them to the next step, right? So maybe it's signing up for a workshop, right? It's so many different things that could happen that you could use to make an offer. It doesn't necessarily have to be a paid offer, right? The first biggest things, and shout out to Joe for that because that was the first person that told me that. And I was so interested because he gave so much. Every leader that got on stage gave so much, and it was just so valuable. But all the information you got, if you don't go back and implement it, what they gave would just be in vain. Take notes and take action. Don't be the one that gets all the information and doesn't take action on it. All right. So, next thing is stay in your lane. Clarity beats variety, right? One of the biggest mistakes creators make is trying to appeal to everyone. One week they're talking about fitness, the next week it's investing, the next is relationship and motivation. Your audience never knows what to expect. People subscribe because they know what they're going to receive. So For me, it's just providing transformational conversations that help people elevate their lives through leadership, mindset, resilience, and purpose. Every guest may have a different background, but the destination is always the same, helping listeners to become better leaders of themselves and others, right? Helping listeners to become better leaders for of themselves and others. So for a simple reflection question, what conversation do I want Be Inspired to be known for 5 years from now? So if you're going through and you're on step 2 and staying in your lane, right? So those are some questions you could that's a question, a reflection question that you could ask. You don't need to be known for everything, but you need to be unforgettable for something, right? So that's number 2, stay in your lane, right? The next one is consistency. And consistency based on CJ and building ET's platform and multiple other people's platform. One of the biggest things that he said was consistency. And if you go and look at everyone that he helped create a band and build a brand, right? For example, the first one is Thank God It's Monday, ET. Every episode you watch, you will hear Thank God It's Monday. Every episode. If you could go on YouTube right now, look up ET, the hip hop preacher, you'll see everything, right? Every episode. Then he got Toby the rapper, and every episode says "Get Twisted Sundays." So he made sure that every episode stays the same. Which when you hear Be Inspired podcast, you hear "Welcome to Be Inspired," where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. Because that's our goal, to inspire you to live the abundant life you deserve. So being consistent, not only with your branding but also with your postings, like every day. If you're posting every day, if you're posting a podcast every day, just stay consistent with it. Make sure you make it happen no matter what. This week, YouTube, I haven't posted much just because I've been traveling to the summit, but I'm back on it this week. I'm going to have like YouTube shorts coming out and a whole bunch more based on previous episodes, right? So just being consistency with, like I said, with your intro, your energy, your questions, your values. Some of your questions could be the same, but it could be a signature question that you have every episode that people look forward to, you know? So, your values, your closing messages. Think of your favorite podcast. Within seconds, you know exactly where you are. That's branding. Consistency creates familiarity, and familiarity creates trust. Trust creates loyalty, right? If someone stumbled across one of the episodes, would they instantly know they were listening to Be Inspired, right? So that's what you ask yourself. Reflect on that question for yourself if you have a podcast out there. It's just not represent a repetition, consistency for a repetition's sake. It's creating an experience people want to return to, right? So that's number 3, consistency. The fourth one is your voice has power. Someone needs to hear what only you can say. And I want to stop a little bit and talk about this one for a second, just because I'm not saying talk about the things that you haven't resolved yet. No. If there's things that you're still working through, like as far as like failures in business or failures in relationships or failures wherever that you have not completely healed from, then I'm not saying share that. What I'm saying is that your story matters. Like your story matters. Like for example, Be Inspired. You know my story as far as like, wait, do you know my story? I've been in this game for what? This is my second year in the game and entrepreneurship since 2014. But do you really know my story? But someone needs to know and hear your story, right? So, not because it's the loudest, not because you have the biggest audience, because it's yours. Many creators delay publishing because they compare themselves to people with larger platforms. But your story reaches people differently because they connect with your experience, your struggles, and your perspective. Your responsibility isn't to sound like someone else, it's to be faithful to your own message. So think about it. What message have I been holding back or you've been holding back because you thought no one else wanted to hear? You know, everything that you've been through can be a lesson or a blessing to somebody else. You just have to be willing to share. Because even like maybe lessons from a car crash, lessons from raising your children, lessons from going to school, lessons from falling out with a friend, like things you need to look out for when building friendships and relationships. Every experience that you've been through could be a lesson or a blessing to somebody else. So always remember that. So that's number four. Your voice has power. And then number five, the last one is the art of the interview. So this one was so powerful because David Shands, shout out to that guy, man. He's a awesome visionary. He's great. He's the one that created Podcast Summit. I even got a video about it with him that I'm about to post later on this week. But just a phenomenal person, phenomenal human being. But he is the one that discussed having a powerful interview with people, right? One of the biggest things I took away from that conversation was, or that training was, ask deeper questions. And you don't necessarily need a script, you know, because one of the most powerful question is asking the question based on the answer you received. So what does that look like? All right. So one of the things he shared was, so if you ask a person, hey, like, what do you do? Right? Say, and they say, well, coaching. So if they say coaching, then you say, all right, how did you get into that? And all of a sudden, you're opening the floor for that person to be open and share their story. But you have to be able to make sure that you set the stage and you're available and create a space for them to be able to open up and be free when you ask in those open-ended questions. And that's one of the most powerful things that one of the other takeaways that I got from Podcast Summit. Anyone can ask what you do. Few interviewers ask what changed you. People don't remember statistics, they remember stories. They don't connect with credentials, they connect with humanity. The best interviews don't chase answers, they chase moments. Instead of asking, how did you become successful? They ask, when did you almost quit? Instead of, what's your advice? What's one mistake that cost you the most? Those questions reveal the person behind the success, right? So the best interviewers don't leave people impressed, they leave people change. So, with all that, we talked about the five things that I take away from Podcast Summit. So, what I realized at the summit is that these aren't just five separate ideas, they're one philosophy. Make an offer because people need direction, stay in your lane because clarity builds trust, be consistent because trust is earned over time. Use your voice because someone is waiting to hear your perspective, and master the art of interviewing because the right questions can save someone's life. Whether you're a podcast, entrepreneur, leader, or someone simply trying to make an impact, remember this. Make an offer because your audience need direction, stay in your lane. If this episode challenged you, don't just listen. Put one lesson into practice this week. Your next breakthrough may begin with the next conversation you choose to have. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Be Inspired Podcast, where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. So, if you like this episode and you could resonate with it, go ahead and comment down in the section and let's have a conversation. So let's have a conversation in the chat, and I'll see you on the next episode of Be Inspired Podcast, where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. Have a great week, everyone.